Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Spotlight. I'm Laurel Starks, your host, and we are shining a spotlight today on Lindsey Harn, who is with Christie's International Real Estate in San Luis Obispo. We fondly call it SLO here in California. San Luis Obispo, California. Lindsey has got quite an impressive resume. I'm going to touch on a few of the highlights. Lindsey has personally closed over 1,200 transactions in her career as a realtor, which equates to over $1 billion in closed sales. That is phenomenal. She's the number one sales agent in SLO County for the sixth consecutive year. She's number 4 in top teams throughout California and number 57 in the United States. Lindsey obtained her bachelor's degree from Cal Poly SLO, excellent school, in 2008, and she abruptly joined the Domestic Peace Corps through AmeriCorps and served for 1 year. I think that's fascinating. She has been a licensed realtor with Christie's since 2009. She is also a very she spends a lot of her time doing some good important work, especially through the Big Sisters and Big Brothers organization. She obtained her certified divorce real estate expert credential in 2019, and she is also founding member at Cal Poly Real Estate Advisory Board. I could go on, but I think that's enough. So welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Indeed. So, Lindsey, tell me a little bit about your business. What does your business look like? What was your business like before you got into divorce real estate? What's it look like now? Kind of walk us through that.
Okay, so up until about 2018, I was actually a buyer's agent. So, like 95 to 98% of my transactions were buyers based. And so in 2018, I made the decision to start the Lindsey Harn Group and really go out there and round out my business and also start servicing sellers. And that was a huge adjustment. And so when I was transitioning to that, my transaction count went down quite a bit because I started wearing both the listing agent and the buyer's agent hat and trying to keep my business going. And so when I had heard from a friend about becoming a CDRE, I thought, wow, what an incredible opportunity to position myself to take more listings, to gain the training that the attorneys really need, and really focus on a business where people are searching out your services versus having to cold call, scrounge, and really pound the pavement, as they like to say, to find business. And so this program really spoke to me, and I'm so glad I took the leap of faith and signed up.
Well, we are too. We are too. You bring an incredible experience and credibility to the program as well. So wow. So you did. So you were a buyer's agent, and for anybody watching, it's always incredibly important that an agent have good buyer experience, because when you have a lot of buyer experience, you understand what buyers are looking for. So then when you go to be a listing agent, you can position a listing to speak to the needs of buyers and things that are important to buyers versus things that aren't necessarily important to buyers, but understanding how buyers tour homes, how they select homes, their mindset and methodology for putting in offers and all of that's really important, to have that background as a listing agent. So what are your main sources of business? You've got the CDRE. What are your other sources of business?
Yep. So the CDRE is a huge source, also past clients and sphere of influence. So I have a database and I communicate with them on a regular basis. And then my third source is probably what I kind of call reputation or online find me. It's not a specific like Yelp, Google, Zillow. It's sort of like the internet encompassing how people find out information. And so I would sort of say reputation or online research.
Got it. That's phenomenal, and you clearly do a fantastic job in doing all that. So, Lindsey, you're specifically about your divorce business. You are in a smaller market. What's the population? How many people are in San Luis Obispo in your market, roughly? Do you have any idea your
You
population?
know, like in the city, the numbers get really skewed because we have 20,000 college students who are
Yeah.
kind of transient, but I would say there's about 20 to 30,000 people in my immediate city, and then the county, maybe we hit around 100,000.
Okay. How many attorneys do you have right there in your market?
I would say family law attorneys probably around 30.
About 30. Okay. And so you work, so I'm sure all the family law attorneys know who you are. And you're very involved within your legal community. And so when now that you have worked within the legal community, and you have, built quite a significant leg of your business. We went over your growth, and literally every single year you grew about 50 to 100% every single year since you got your CDRE. Um, what advice would you give to an agent who's looking to get into this business?
Yeah, I would say be patient, follow through. Like anything, it doesn't happen overnight, but if you stick with it and are willing to really put in 2 years of following the system, it will really pay off. People always say, oh, you're in a small market, there's not enough attorneys. How do you even make this business happen? And I always say, I'm so successful because I'm in a small market. So I think it's always a mindset. Like in a big market, there's 700 attorneys, but how does Lindsey stand out to 700? It's a lot easier for me to stand out to 30. So I think no matter what market you're in, you just have to focus on your strengths and use your market to advantage if it's small or if it's big.
Wow, that's great advice. You can be a big fish in a small pond, right? So that's excellent. Um, you've done tons of divorce real estate transactions at this point. You've got years of experience in doing it. You also have seen, and you were telling me as we were briefing that you've got lawyers who have you on speed dial. What are some of the biggest or the most common questions you get from family law attorneys, and what would you say that bits of real estate information that family law attorneys really could use?
Yeah, a lot of times it's really simple, like send me a property profile, what would this home be worth? What do I need to know? And sometimes it's not really the super in-depth complicated questions. It usually starts with just I need a property profile, what's the loan balance? Could you give me a ballpark on this? And those being responsive is so key because they're working on 10 or 20 or who knows how many files. When they need that property profile or some sort of loan amount that was last recorded on the property, they want it now. And so if it's Saturday morning, I have one attorney that's always doing his quiet work. I'm always like, 1 second, let me get my laptop out and I will send him what he needs immediately. And I think being responsive is really key, and then those little favors you do turn into the big complex questions down the road.
Yeah. So for family law attorneys to know that realtors are really a huge source of a lot of information that they need regarding the real property, aspect in their case. What else do you think that family law attorneys need to know once you start working in a case, and some of the things that you've come across? What are some things that you think maybe maybe it's terms and orders, or maybe it's advice that they had given their clients? What would you say that lawyers should know?
I think they know so little, and I say that no, with absolute no disrespect, but they don't know if the yard has weeds up this high. I mean, you are literally their eyes and ears on the home, the showings, what complications they may have. Occasionally, there'll be a lot of issues where only one spouse is on title, but both have access via community property. And how do we structure those things so that both people's interests are properly vetted? And a lot of times they just don't have the time to dig into all these details. And so we're really their expert that really needs to help them structure those things. I always tell my attorneys, get me involved or give me a heads up before you just email me the order Friday at 5 o'clock and say, okay, you've got to have the house on the market by Tuesday. I'd rather us kind of keep that open communication a little ahead of time, so I can get the title report. I can let them know what challenges we're going to run into.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's important that the house is that there's proper investigation on the inside of the transaction, which is things like you said, title, mortgage, that kind of thing. But it's also important that the house show up to the market dressed and ready to be on the market.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And usually our clients' houses are not dressed and ready when we first go to the house. What advice would you give to someone who is going through a divorce with regards to their real estate? What advice would you give to them?
I would try to stay calm. It's a very, very emotional process, and I see it all the time. But a lot of times, spouses will try to protect their interests by delaying the process, sabotaging. But there can be significant economic negative impacts for every month you push off returning my call, or every month you could be whacked with back rent. Like, there are so many financial implications. And while I know it's really, really emotional and you want to just hunker down and hold on to your home, which is the most emotional part of getting a divorce, is if you have to let go of the family home. Our job is to get you set off in the best outcome so you walk away with the biggest nest egg you can for your future. And I think the sooner you adjust to the reality that keeping the family home, if that's in the cards to not happen, is to try to remove your emotion and find a CDRE who will help hold your hand and walk you through the process, and do it in a way where it doesn't have a major financial implication on your future.
Great advice. Great advice. Emotions can be very costly. Well, thank you, Lindsey. I appreciate your wisdom, and you've given us a lot of information to share, and keep going out there and killing it. Thanks.
Of course. Great to see you as always.
You too.